There is something scary about driving at night, especially if you only have your own imagination for company. And these stories shared on this subreddit may just put you off getting behind the wheel after dark. We have chosen some of these stories that we found extremely terrible and will be posting them from now on. I work the night shift at a warehouse. It's a 9-hour shift from 5 p.m. to 2 a.m. I work with 1 or 2 other people in the building during that time, especially in later hours, but nothing freaky ever happens there. I mean, it's just a warehouse. This actually happened while I was driving home from work one night. My drive home is a 30-minute, tranquil cruise on rural highways. A few other highways branch off of the one I take, but even then, the only life I tend to see that late at night is deer or skunks or opossums or something on the roadside, and sometimes a few other vehicles here and there. I had been on the road for about 10 minutes when I noticed headlights in my rear view mirror and casually glanced. There was what appeared to be a huge semi-trailer truck on the road behind me, with a livestock cage or something on the back containing noisily squealing animals. This wouldn't have been unusual had the semi not been approaching extremely quickly. I sped up a little bit so that it wouldn't clip my rear bumper as it passed by, but didn't pass. It was weird, because the road ahead was straight for at least 2 minutes, so he had plenty of time and room to pass. No turns were coming up for a while, either, so he couldn't have just been waiting. Within seconds, the truck had come so close to me that I could barely see its headlights, and then honked at me. As I rolled my window down to motion him to ground, I could really hear the clamor taking place in the trailer. Whatever was in there, pigs or whatever, they clearly wanted out and were screeching and pounding on the trailer. When I signaled the driver to pass, the truck started to go around, and I was complaining in my mind about how there are so many crazy drivers lately. However, the truck did not pass, but remained in the opposite lane, the lane for oncoming traffic. The driver was clearly insane and trying to start a confrontation. I tried to avoid looking, but the driver didn't move back into the correct lane, and I worried that if I didn't give him the attention he was clearly asking for, he would hit someone head-on and kill them. I nervously glanced over. The driver was a bald, clean-shaven man with an unsettlingly large grin on his face. I don't like to judge appearances. I understand that some people look scary when they smile, but he seemed as he was deliberately trying to be as creepy as possible. He wasn't even watching the road, just fixing his gaze and heart rate rictus on me, being grinned at by a creepy truck driver with the constant haunting wailing of the animals providing an all too appropriate soundtrack for the situation. This continued for about 10 seconds when suddenly his mouth opened wide and his body shook with laughter, and he gestured with his thumb to the large trailer on the back of his vehicle. He then sped up and I could see the trailer. The way he was acting, I was expecting to find a bunch of cows or pigs with no heads or something in it, but that would have been significantly less horrifying than what I actually did see. I saw people, smeared with vomit and excrement, wearing filthy and ragged clothing, some lying on the floor with their arms and legs hanging out of the holes, and the living standing on top of them beating their fists on the trailer and screaming. The looks of sheer terror on their faces and the desperation of their cries brought me back to reality. I wasn't just about to wake up from a terrible nightmare, and they were too genuine to be a horror movie director with his actors trying to scare people driving around at night. These people were seriously fearing for their lives. The next thought to come to mind was that the truck driver wasn't just insane, but a full-on psychopath, probably some serial killer who was on his way to butcher these poor people. My mind raced as I reached for my phone to call the police. I had gotten a good look at the truck while the driver taunted me before, and it had no logos or distinguishing marks of any kind. I turned on my high beam headlights and searched frantically for a license plate, but didn't find one. the truck increased its speed even further, driving faster than I knew as a semi was capable of going. The truck disappeared over a hill, clearing it at such a ridiculous speed that I heard the wheels slam hard on the ground on the other side. As I went over the hill myself, I saw the truck fading off into the distance. The screaming still echoed in the otherwise dead silence. I pulled off to the side of the road and started to calm down. I felt my skin crawl as I realized that not far off in the direction the truck was heading, there was a dead end with an abandoned meat packing plant for a local company called Riscalo's Fine Meats that went out of business in the 70s. I called the police, and I couldn't tell the truth because who would believe me? I decided instead to tell the operator that I saw suspicious looking men go into the building as I was driving by, and he said that officers would be sent immediately. I watched the news closely every day for a week after that, but nothing relevant ever came up. I visited the police station to ask about it a few nearly sleepless days later, and an officer told me that he was dispatched there but didn't find anyone there, and then stated that the building was too decrepit dangerous to safely investigate inside. He reassured me that I probably just saw and heard an animal. I insisted that I saw men walking in there, trying to get them to go back and look. But the officer became stern and told me that it was probably just vandals looking for a place to tag. I decided not to push it any further and left, feeling like a failure. I guess my only hope is that an urban explorer goes into the building with a camera and catches footage of human remains or something there, to get the cops to take this seriously. If anyone knows of the factory and decides to do this, please be safe. Don't go alone. Don't go unarmed. I still have nightmares about what I saw that night, and I assume that sick freak is still out there, rounding up more victims. This is your first time here and you want to watch true ghost encounter stories, hit the subscribe button and the bell notification icon so you can be notified when we upload a new video.